I'm very proud to claim that at Mahindra, we saw the electric future as far back as 1999. I have every reason to believe that we can, in fact, lead in the four-wheeler electric segment.
Hello and welcome to this special broadcast. The electric vehicle passenger car market is heating up in India. Tata Motors has the pole position and the Mahindra Group is now laying out aggressive plans to win the EV market. Here in Oxfordshire at the company's advanced design studio, Mahindra unveiled 5 new electric vehicles to be launched between 2024 and 2026. The first of the lot, the XUV E8, will be launched by December 2024. They also elaborated on a close partnership with Volkswagen. Let's listen in to Mahindra Group Chairman Anand Mahindra. So what does this milestone mean for you?
But you know, today I'm going to be a man of few words because it's all about the heart today. It's not about the mind. You saw that we have created a genre of design called hardcore design. So I'm speaking from the heart. I want to thank the team here, Rajesh, Velu, Pratap, Vijay, who unfortunately couldn't be here, but I want to thank all of them from the bottom of my heart. What they've done on our 75th anniversary is making me so proud. There's a flag fluttering in here, gracefully in the breeze.
And how would you compare this moment to the launch of the Scorpio?
You know,
and what does this mean for the company now?
Mahindra has always been in the business of taking people. We're a small company relative to the larger company. So we cannot hedge out. We have to go all in and out. So what you've seen is actually kind of walk into a new galaxy. We're moving at warp speed, we're going to enter a new galaxy.
We are at Mahindra's Advanced Design Studio here in Oxfordshire near London. The group has unveiled different segments of their EV strategy. The big announcements, 5 new electric cars to be launched between December 2024 and December 2026. With us right now is the Managing Director of the Mahindra Group, Anish Shah. Mr. Shah, thank you very much for joining us. 5 new cars. What does this mean for Mahindra's automobile journey? Is the future all electric? Are all future investments going into EVs only?
So the first step in our journey, Parikshit, is ensuring that we have leadership in EV. We've been talking about that for some time. We've said, wait for August 15th, we will do the reveal. And here we have 5 new SUVs. If you just take a look at the range, these are very exciting vehicles. And I'm sure that there's going to be a lot for our consumers, for everything they want in SUVs. In terms of where we go forward from here, I think a lot will depend on how infrastructure builds out in India. I have no doubt that consumers will prefer these cars, even though we've got some really nice cars on the ICE side. But as infrastructure builds up, we'll see a greater inflection point for EVs taking off. So the next 3 or 4 years, we'll decide whether we go faster on electric or we do a combination of both.
Right. As of now, if I would ask you your ratio, your percentage of investments towards ICE and electric, how much would that be?
So ICE, we have a brand new portfolio. In the last 18 months, we've launched 5 new cars, which are all blockbusters. And therefore, our focus really is on electric right now. A lot of investments are fungible because lines, paint shops can be used for both. But once we get past the next 3 years, we'll have a better sense of do we put more back in ICE or do we continue with ICE and electric both, or do we put more in electric?
Right. Lots also riding on the XUV 400. That's coming up early in September. Tell us about that.
So that is a car that is great for Indian market right now. I would say that it would be the best in the market when it's released at this point in time. And then as these new vehicles come in from December 24 onwards, then we've got a full range of electric cars.
All right, so let's make it a differentiator. So the XUV 400 is an adaptation, electric adaptation of the XUV 300.
That's right.
Right? And these vehicles that you've showcased now, these are fully electric from ground up?
This is a born electric platform. It's the INGLO platform, which is really a leap in technology. And that platform allows for a very different experience. As you can see, this is a completely new platform. And as Velu explained earlier today, the technology that's gone into this is quite amazing and allows for multiple different top hats that can be put on the platform, and a lot of adaptability.
Right. You've got an investment from British International Investments, which is $250 million. Mahindra Group would be putting in the same. What about further investments? What about going to the stock market with an IPO? What about those plans?
So in the short run, we will look at getting some other investors. We've already outlined that we have set aside funds for all the investments needed in EV, but we feel that investors like BII bring in a lot of expertise, a lot of discipline as well, and that will allow us to build a stronger business. So those partnerships are valuable for us. And as we go forward, we will look at IPO, but that's still a way off. The first thing is to have these 5 vehicles out in the market and have a strong consumer base for that.
India is a price-conscious market and a range-conscious market as well. How would you be pricing all these vehicles when it comes to the Indian market, and also the range that a customer can expect? How many kilometers can they run?
That's the beauty of a born electric platform. With the battery that can go into this, we're looking at LFP batteries, that's lithium ferrous phosphate, at both 60 and 80 kilowatt hours. The range will actually be among the highest in the market. So from a range standpoint, we will make sure that there's no anxiety at all.
Would it be 450, 500?
At this point, we will come back with the range once it's finalized. It will be different in each vehicle based on a variety of factors. But what we will do is make sure that what we commit to in range is actually what is out there. From a pricing standpoint, all I can say is you've seen our pricing for the XUV700 for the Scorpio. Our approach has always been to have a very compelling price for the consumer, and that's the same approach that we will take.
A hint, it would be on those lines.
It will be a very compelling price.
It will be a compelling price. Okay. Interestingly, there was a lot of chatter with Volkswagen on the sidelines of this event. They would be supplying components including electric motor, battery cells, and other electric components of the electric vehicle. How much more can this partnership diversify? Platform sharing, joint manufacturing, maybe?
So we've started with electric motors and batteries. And then we will see where that goes as this platform comes up. We would look at this as a world-class platform that could be used for a variety of things in future. So that story will be played out as we go along.
So you would like to offer this to Volkswagen?
At this point, too early to say. I think we need to bring the cars out on these platforms and then continue those discussions as we go.
But the scope of collaboration is open at this stage.
The scope of collaboration is open. We've got a very good relationship, and for us, as with every JV, we need to make sure that the interests of both partners are fully aligned. And as we look at multiple things, we feel pretty good about the collaboration we have with Volkswagen today.
Right. You were already struggling to meet the large booking pipeline for the Scorpio, for the Thar, for the XUV700, and now you've got an electric car coming out, the XUV400. How are you going to manage the capacity? And when it comes to these new born electric vehicles, which will roll out from December 2024, is there a plan to either scale up existing capacity or acquire a new one?
There is a plan to scale up existing capacity significantly. So we need to do that first for the 700 as well as for the Scorpio N. And we are planning ahead for these cars as well. So we have time for these, and we will make sure that there's adequate capacity that's available. And as we look at it, launch in India is only the first step. And we want to take these cars global. We think they are among the best in the world. And that's something we'll plan for also.
Right. So when you talk about scaling up capacity, I'll begin with the Scorpio N and the XUV700. How soon will you announce those plans to expand capacity? And what is the scale by which you would increase it? What is the current capacity that you have, and how much would you like to increase it in the next couple of months?
So we're looking to getting close to double the capacity we have.
For these two vehicles only?
For our entire set of current vehicles. Because the demand right now is very high, not just for these two, but for the Thar, for the XUV300, for the Bolero Neo, and we are seeing great reviews on the classic Scorpio as well. So the good news is we've got terrific demand. What we need to do is really ramp up capacity as quickly as possible As you're aware, in the auto industry, it does take time because all suppliers have to invest as well. It's not just our manufacturing capacity. And we are at this point underway on those plans, and we should be ramping up capacity in this space.
Right. And will it happen in the existing plants, or you would like to maybe acquire capacity from some of the other OEMs?
So we have space in our existing plants. At this point, what we need to get done faster is for our suppliers to put in additional capacity, because in many cases it's doubling for them as well. But our Chakan plant was built with a lot of room to expand, and therefore we're putting extra line in there, we're putting a paint shop in there. So there's a whole host of things that's coming in, and we have the space for it today.
When it comes to mergers and acquisitions, is there room to acquire companies in the EV ecosystem in India, or you're not looking, or you're not going ahead for any of those mergers and acquisitions at this stage?
We've got outstanding technology now, and we've got great design for these cars. So our focus at this point is to execute, to be able to get these out in the same vein as we did for the XUV700. High quality, something that the consumer is going to look at and say, wow, I want that. And that's really what we're driving towards.
Right. When it comes to keeping the battery cost low, what are you going to do in terms of that puzzle? Where are the cells coming from for Mahindra and for these platforms, and also for the XUV400?
So that's where this partnership with Volkswagen comes in. That is an important partnership from a battery standpoint as well. They are among the leaders in the world in this space, and that's going to help us as we go forward. There are a couple of other sources we have for batteries as well,
BYD?
and BYD is one of them. And that's something that, again, we feel that we've got strong technology, and we've got supply that is, in a sense, locked in with very strong partners.
For your first EV now, the XUV400, or if I may call it the third, you had the Riva, you had the e-Verito. What kind of a booking pipeline or numbers that you are preparing for in terms of production?
At this point, there's still some more work that needs to be done to finalize the product offering itself. And as we do that, we'll get a sense. But what we're going to do is keep it at a level that allows for consumers to get into these cars later as well. So we want to find a way to sort of merge that with the new cars coming in. And therefore, we're not going to go all out for capacity on the 400. We think it's a great car. We think consumers will absolutely love it. But at the same time, we want to bring these cars in immediately after that.
And it'll be competing against, the pricing-wise at least, against the Nexon EV. And
all I can say, again, it's going to be a very compelling value proposition, and consumers will love the car.
All right. My final set of questions, give us a sense, this had been a tough period, but give us a sense of kind of profits, the margins that you are getting from each vehicle. For example, the XUV700 or the Scorpio. What is the profit margin that the company is making for every vehicle at this stage? How has it grown over last year?
So for every vehicle, it's different in the sense every variant has a different margin as well to some extent. All I can say is at the aggregate level, we have indicated to our investors that our margins will go up by 300 basis points. And that's something that we are on track to achieve. So at this point, we are in a fairly good space overall as a business.
While taking over, you had set yourself a target of 18% ROE. How have you performed on that? And and do you think that the current profit margins that Mahindra is expecting, where will that take the growth?
So we've been at 18% ROE for the last 4 quarters. And we've promised capital allocation actions. We've done that. We've taken care of loss-making businesses. We've met our 18% ROE target, and we've now promised growth and scale up, which is what we're doing across all our businesses.
Right. Any businesses that may be closed down or maybe restructured?
We've done all of that. And that's where we got to 18% ROE.
Not even Mahindra Agri?
At the same point, Mahindra Agri is a profit-making business today, right? So we will continue to monitor our businesses, but our primary focus now is on growth and scale. And that's something that our businesses are poised well, and we can really grow at a much faster pace, which is what we're delivering now.
Any of your growth gems? This is an idea that was very close to you. Any of the growth gems maturing enough for an IPO anytime soon?
Consistent with what we've said, we are on track the next 2 to 4 years. We should see the growth gems hit $1 billion market cap, and we should see them moving towards an IPO as well.
And finally, with the launch of these new vehicles, making all these announcements, which part of the EV ecosystem would you like to focus on? Would Mahindra like to get itself into charging? Would you like to solve the semiconductor problem by getting into semiconductors? What about battery localization, battery manufacturing?
So semiconductors is a problem we've largely solved now. The answer really is to have backups for semiconductors in all our parts, and which is what the team's doing with plants around the world.
Right.
Because concentration in any one area doesn't make sense. With regard to batteries, today we got strong partners. We will look at whether we should get into a partnership in manufacturing batteries or not. And with regard to charging infrastructure, there are various partners we have today, which will do well. The way I think about it is, it's like petrol pumps, right? ICE car makers don't own petrol pumps. So in the same way, we'll make cars, but we'll have charging structures.
And finally, how do you expect to end this year, this financial year, in terms of growth for the group?
On a very positive note.
All right. Thank you for speaking to us, Anish Shah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All 5 electric vehicles unveiled by the Mahindra Group are based on this INGLO platform, which is a modular, scalable architecture and will be used for all future EV products from the Mahindra stable. In fact, Volkswagen expects to see a volume of at least 1 million vehicles by 2030 through this partnership with the Mahindra Group. On that note, we take a short break. Lots more on this broadcast on the other side. With us right now is Sameer Abhyankar, who is the head of private equity investments and managing director for British International Investments, which has made a $250 million investment commitment in the Mahindra Group. Sameer, thank you for talking to us. Give us a sense of how these investments will flow into the Mahindra Group. What are you looking for in return for Mahindra Group to achieve?
Sure. So maybe let me just start by explain a little bit about who BII is. So BII is the UK government's development finance institution. So as a DFI, we have a dual mandate. One is to generate a financial return, but the other, which is equally important, is to generate impact in the markets in which we operate. Now, impact means many different things to different people. For us, one of the most important priorities for us on a go-forward basis, as well as what we've done so far, is around investments related to climate. So a lot of what you'd expect to see from us over the next few years, particularly in India, is going to be related to climate. Then coming to this particular transaction, as you'd have seen, $250 million is a large investment. So we see this partnership with Mahindra Group very much as a partnership. And in the spirit of that partnership, as what you mentioned, where this is a newly established entity, so there are a number of business-related milestones that we expect the business to achieve over the next couple of years, including, as you see, the rollout of some of these vehicles, etc. So there's quite a detailed list around it, but we expect to be investing the $250 million based on hitting some of these milestones.
Right. And what would make you consider the next investment in the Mahindra Group? What after $250 million, and what would you want to see before you make that investment?
Yeah, sure. So, unlike private equity funds, we are a balance sheet investor, and we recognize that for a lot of these investments that we make, they're going to need a long time to actually develop, right? And that's where we see our role and our differentiation. So we invest out of balance sheet and long term. That means that we have to be prepared to invest additional amounts as the business needs it, right? But certainly to date, our 250 alongside their 250 is a corpus of about 500 million. That's enough for what we're aiming to do now. But certainly this business will need more money, and one of the other important mandates for us is to use BII's balance sheet to mobilize incremental amounts of funding from other people. Right? So what we are expecting to do is that while we may consider putting more money in later, what we will certainly be looking to do is working with our friends at M&M to raise additional funding into this platform.
Okay. Also, going forward, would you be considering investments in other EV players in India, other car manufacturers?
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe two-wheelers?
So, when you think about EV, this is a pretty nascent sector. For EVs to work anywhere in the world, it needs multiple different actors to develop, right?
Right.
So this is our investment in the OEM space. But at the same time, for this to actually really take off, you're going to need the auto components guys to have moved into EV. You're going to need the charging infrastructure to have developed. You're going to need the recycling infrastructure to have developed. So certainly we as an investor who is interested in catalyzing markets, we'll be looking selectively at other spaces as well.
Oh, so you continue to look at other players in India who are transitioning to electric mobility in the component and ecosystem space?
Correct. Components ecosystem, charging kit, battery recycling. It's going to take multiple actors to all be working together, but you certainly need the weight of the OEMs to pull all the other constituents along.
Cell manufacturing?
We could look at those as well. I mean, at the moment, as you know, in India, there's not much going on, but as and when that does happen, we'll certainly take a look at that as well, yeah.
All right. What about semiconductors? Is that something that you're optimistic about? India does not have any ecosystem yet.
Yeah, so, we as an investor, this particular transaction is a great example of where we come in and partner with strategic operators. So to the extent that there are strategic operators who are looking to develop a semiconductor industry, that's certainly something that we'd look at and consider. To date, we haven't come across any, but let's see.
My final question, what are the other areas that are interesting for the British International Investment Group?
Sure. So we're very active across a number of sectors. I mean, I think renewables is an area which we've been very active in India. We've helped launch this platform called Ayana. It continues to be a space that we're going to continue looking at. Financial services is another very important area for us. We've biased our financial services investments towards microfinance and small business lending, both of which we think that the market still has a lot more need. So we continue to look at things around microfinance, housing finance, etc. Then moving into services, health, education, pharmaceuticals, food and agriculture, all again very, very important and very important areas for us from an impact lens, as well as we think that there are interesting commercial returns to be made there.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking to us, sir.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you so much. The Mahindra Group has secured an investment of $250 million from British International Investments. They will also be investing $250 million themselves in their EV strategy for the next few years. But at the same time, they will be on the lookout for future investors as well. That's all we have time for on this special broadcast. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.